We'll have Guru Puja when Maharaj gets here. Shall we do this in unison, eh? As they say in Canada. Srimati Kunti said, O Krishna, I offer my obeisances unto you, because you are the original personality and unaffected by the qualities of the material world. You are existing both within and without, and yet you're invisible to all. Being beyond the range of limited sense perception, you are the eternally irreproachable factor covered by the curtain of deluding energy. You are invisible to the foolish observer, exactly as an actor, just as a player, is not recognized. You yourself descend to propagate the transcendental science of devotional service unto the hearts of the advanced transcendentalists and mental speculators, who are purified by being able to discriminate between matter and spirit. Who then can we women know you perfectly? Let me therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who has become the son of Vasudeva, the pleasure of Devaki, the boy of Nanda, and the other cowherd men of Vrindavan, and the enlivener of the cows and the senses. My respectful obeisances are unto you, O Lord, whose abdomen is marked with a depression like a lotus flower, who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, whose glance is as cool as the lotus, and whose feet are engraved with lotus. O Rishikesh, Master of the senses and Lord of lords, you have released your mother Devaki, who was long imprisoned and distressed by the envious King Kamsa, and me and my children from a series of constant dangers. My dear Krishna, your Lordship has protected us from a poisoned cake, from a great fire, from cannibals, from the vicious assembly, from sufferings during our exile in the forest, and from the battle where great generals fought. And now you saved us from the weapon of Ashvatthama. I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again, so that we could see you again and again. For seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated births and deaths. My Lord, your Lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling. My obeisances are unto you, who are the property of the materially impoverished. You have nothing to do with the actions and reactions of the material modes of nature. You are self-satisfied, and therefore you are the most gentle, and are the master of the monists. My Lord, I consider your Lordship to be eternal time, the supreme controller without beginning and end, the all-pervasive one. In distributing your mercy, you are equal to everyone. The dissensions between living beings are due to social intercourse. O Lord, no one can understand your transcendental pastimes, which appear to be human and so misleading. You have no specific object of favor, nor do you have any object of envy. People only imagine that you are partial. Of course, it is bewildering, O soul of the universe, that you work, though you are inactive, and that you take birth, though you are the vital force of the unborn. You yourself descend amongst animals, men, sages, and aquatics. Verily, this is bewildering. My dear Krishna, Yashoda took up a rope to bind you when you committed an offense, and your perturbed eyes overflooded with tears, which washed the mascara from your eyes. And you were afraid, though fear personified is afraid of you. This sight is bewildering to me. Some say that the unborn is born for the glorification of pious kings, and others say that he is born to please King Yadu, one of your dearest devotees. You appear in his family as sandalwood appears in the Malaya hills. Others say that since both Vasudeva and Devaki prayed for you, You have taken your birth as their son. Undoubtedly you were unborn, yet you take your birth for their welfare and to kill those who are envious of the demigods. Who say that the world, being overburdened like a boat at sea, is much aggrieved. Brahma, who is your son, prayed for you, and so you have appeared to diminish the trouble. In others, you appear for the sake of rejuvenating the devotional service of hearing, remembering, worshipping, and so on, in order that the conditioned soul suffering from material pangs might take advantage and gain liberation. O King, those who continuously hear, chant, and repeat your transcendental activities, or take pleasures and others doing so, certainly see your lotus feet, which alone can stop repetition of birth and death. O my Lord, you have executed all duties yourself. Are you leaving us today, though we are completely dependent on your mercy and have no one else to protect us, now when all kings are at enmity with us? As the name and fame of a particular body is finished with the disappearance of the living spirit, similarly, if you do not look upon us, all our fame and activities, along with upon yadas, will be end at once. O Gadadhar Krishna, our kingdom is now being marked by the impressions of your feet, and therefore it appears beautiful. But when you leave, it will no longer be so. All these cities are flourishing in all respects because the herbs and grains are in abundance. The trees are full of fruits, the rivers are flowing, the hills are full of minerals, and the oceans full of wealth. And all this is due to your glancing over them. O Lord of the universe, soul of the universe, O personality of the form of the universe, please therefore sever my tie of affection for my kinsmen, the Pandavas and the Vrishnis. O Lord of the Mad, O Krishna, O friend of Arjuna, O chief amongst the descendants of Vishnu, you are the destroyer of those political parties which are disturbing elements on the earth. Our prowess never deteriorates. You are the proprietor of the transcendental abode, and you descend to relieve the distresses of the cows, the brahmanas, and the devotees. You possess all mystic powers, and you are the preceptor of the entire universe. You are the Almighty God. And I offer you my respectful obeisance. What time is Maharaj coming? With Shriyanta Riksha. Oh, hey, Vaishnav Thakur. Maharaj on his way. We'll migrate out when he comes. We're trying to get an ETA. Oh hey, Vaishnava Thakura, Doyara Sagara, Edase Karuna Kori. Sagara, Edase Karuna Kori. Oh hey, Vaishnava Thakura, Doyara Sagara, Edase Karuna Kori. Diya Pagachaya Shoroe Aman Tomara Sarana Dori. Chaya Pega Dodi, Chaya Dosha Shodhi, Chaya Guna Devo Dase. Jaya Satsanga. Devi Amare Bhajati Shangara Ashe. All together. Ekaki Amanathar Balo Harinama Sankirtane Kimi Kripa Kori Sharabindu Diya Deha Krishna Namadane Krishna Setoma Krishna Dike Paro Tomara Shakati Amito Ganga Krishna Krishna Boli Jaya Bapa Jaya Vaishnava Vaishnava Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma Shri Guru Charana
Padma Kevala Bhakti Padma Pandavai Savadana Mate Pandavai Savadana Mate Jara Prasadeva Bhava Chariya Jara Prasadeva Bhava Chariya Krishna Prapti Hoy Hoy Hey Krishna Prapti Hoy Hey Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Tite Koriya Aikya Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chite Koriya Aikya Arna Koriya Mane Asha Sri Guru Rane Rati Aisha Uttama Gati Sri Guru Rane Rati Aisha Uttama Gati Jai Prasade Pure Sava Asha Akudas Niloje, Samijan Me Prabhu Jai. Divya Gangire Prakashita. Divya Gangire Prakashita. Prem Bhakti Harite, Abhijavinasajate. Prem Bhakti Harite, Abhijavinasajate. Vede Gajahara Charita. Vede Gajahara Charita. Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janana Bandhu. Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adama Janana Bandhu. Lokena Jivana. Lokena Jivana. Ha! Ha! Prabhu Kailaya, Deho Mare Parajaya. Ha! Ha! Prabhu Kailaya, Deho Mare Parajaya. Ebe Jastu Sukti Bhuvana. Ebe Jastu Sukti Bhuvana. Ha! Prabhu Karanaya, Deho Mare Parajaya. Ha! Prabhu Karanaya, Deho Mare Parajaya. Ebe Jastu Sukti Bhuvana. Ebe Jastu Sukti Bhuvana. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Shiva Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Jai Jai Prabhupada, 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 Jai Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale. Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Shunyavare Paschachadesha Karine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. It's time for Haribol, 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 Agora Haribol. Let's go Haribol, 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 Agora Haribol. Let's go Haribol, 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 go Haribol. Go Premanande. Jai Om Mr. Bam Sabadaraj Kajai. Sto there Satasi Sima Desi Bhakti Vedanta. Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai Om Vishnu Padmam Sabadaraj Kajai. Sto there Satasi Sima Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasi Thakur Prabhupada ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki. ISKCON founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki. Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki. Prem Sekaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Sivasini Go Bhakta Vrindaki Sisi Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ke Vrindavan Dham Ke Navadvip Dham Ke Ganga Mai Ke Yamuna Mai Ke Tulasi Devi Ke Bhakti Devi Ke Samaveda Bhakta Vrindaki, Go Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to CC Guru Gauranga. Thank you. Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, welcome. It's a great pleasure, honor to welcome our guest speaker today. His Holiness Devamrita Swami is a disciple of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. As a child prodigy, he was ushered into Yale University at a young age, and given the opportunity to go through the academic system there with a view towards figuring out how to solve all the problems of the world, which he didn't achieve at Yale University, but later on, as a resident of New York, walked through Port Authority bus station, a rough and tumble place where devotees would go when they'd like to not only distribute books, but get in fist fights. One of the devotees of the time, Daivi Shakti, who now you'll find as a permanent asset and resident of Sri Vrindavan, had approached Maharaj and induced him to take Transcendental literature. And step by step, he gave everything in his treasury to take home the Srimad Bhagavatam and any other of Srila Prabhupada's books, which he studied independently without a keen desire to meet devotees. Being a literary person and an intellectual, he studied the books deeply, carefully, and made the conclusion that this was what he had been looking for at Yale University, a solution to the world's problems. And he's been one of the pioneers of the Sankirtan movement, notably in the former Soviet Union, when it was punishable by lifelong imprisonment or even death to go and preach in such areas. He and a couple others in covert operations would smuggle Transcendental literature into the country in aluminum foil and engine blocks and make contacts there through which they would step by step expand the Sankirtan movement in such places. He was also one of the literary consultants for the BBT early on, and it has remained a stalwart servitor of the BBT for years and years. He's notably one of the key proponents in the world for Transcendental book distribution. The accolades go on, but we feel very fortunate that you're attracted to come here. Maharaj, we thank you very much for keeping us in your orbit. And please give an ISV welcome to His Holiness Devamrita Swami. Hare Krishna.
All right. It is a great privilege for me to be here, soaking up the energy at one of the greatest Sankirtan chakras of the universe. Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan movement is interplanetary, and by his setting in action the Sankirtan movement on the Earth planet, it gradually covers the whole universe. And in case you don't know, maybe you don't see what is right in front of your eyes, this place is one of the prime Sankirtan chakras in the universe. And so I come here to soak up the energy. So let us see what we have in store for this special place. I'm always motivated to pull out of the bag something special for the esteemed ISV audience. Well, let's see. Anything about Krishna is ever fresh. That was Shukadeva Goswami's evaluation of Parikshit Maharaj in the 10th canto. He said, I can perceive that you, Parikshit Maharaj, are perceiving the glories of Krishna to be ever fresh, even though you've heard them before. So this is the level that we aspire for. Every time we hear about Krishna, it's not, oh, I know that Leela. What new details is he going to say that I don't know? No. Our consciousness that we strive for is to hear the topics of Krishna as if we never heard them before. So today I've heard that you're focusing on the chapter 8 of the first canto, Prayers by Queen Kunti. So let's see what we can touch upon today. Some ideas, advance notice. Some ideas that come to my tiny mind are love of Krishna and separation. I spoke a bit about this in Mayapur this year, but this is here the extension of Mayapur. So, and right now they're in the land of the free and home of the brave, land of those imagining they are free and imagining they are brave. It is political madness time. So I thought to take you, perhaps, let's see if we'll get to it. I thought to take you far from the maddening crowd into the world of transcendental politics. Ooh. Politics as Lord Krishna would like to have it. But we'll see if we get to that. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We shall chant Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 8, text 37. Apyajanastram swakrite hita prabho jahasasi swit suhido nujivana Esham nachanyad babata padambujat Parayanam rajasu yojitam hasam Apyajanastram swakrite hita prabho Jahasasi swit suhidonu jivana Yesham nachanyad bhavata padambujat Parayanam rajasu yojitam hasam Apyajanastam swakrite hita prabho Jahasasi swit suhidonu jivana Yesham nachanyad babata padambujat Parayanam rajasu yojitam hasam
Jihasasi swit surido nujivina. Yesham nachanyat bhavatak padambujad. Rayanam rajasu yojitang hasam.
Prabho Jiha Sasi Swit Surido Nujibina Yesham Najanjat Bhavata Padam Bujat Parajanam Rayasu Yojitam Hasam.
Vaishnavis,
Parayanam Rajasu Yojitam Hasam. Apyadyanasvam Swakite Hita Prabho Jiha Sasi Svit Surido Nujivinaha Yesham Nachanyat Bhavatah Padambujat Parayanam Rajasu Yojitam Hasam.
Api, if, Aja, today, Na, us, Tam, you, Swakrita, self-executed, Ihita, all duties, Prabhu, O my Lord, Jahasasi, giving up, Swit, possibly, Suhida, intimate friends, Anujivana, living at the mercy of, Yesham, of whom, Na, nor, Cha, and, Anyat, anyone else, Bhavata, your, Pada Ambujat, from the lotus feet, Parayanam, dependent, Rajasu, unto the kings, Yojita, engaged in, Anghasam, enmity. Translation, O my Lord, you have executed all duties yourself. Are you leaving us today, though we are completely dependent on your mercy and have no one else to protect us, now when all kings are at enmity with us? Purport. This is a longer purport. Please pay attention. It contains, as always, many key elements. Always remember that Srila Prabhupada instructed us at the BBT that actually he said anyone can translate, but the purports contain my devotional ecstasies. The Pandavas are most fortunate because with all good luck, they were entirely dependent on the mercy of the Lord. In the material world, to be dependent on the mercy of someone else is the utmost sign of misfortune. But in the case of our transcendental relation with the Lord, It is the most fortunate case when we can live completely dependent on him. The material disease is due to thinking of becoming independent of everything. But the cruel material nature does not allow us to become independent. The false attempt to become independent of the stringent laws of nature is known as material advancement of experimental knowledge. The whole material world is moving on this false attempt of becoming independent of the laws of nature. Beginning from Ravana, who wanted to prepare a direct staircase to the planets of heaven, down to the present age, they are trying to overcome the laws of nature. They are trying now to approach distant planetary systems by electronic mechanical power. But the highest goal of human civilization is to work hard under the guidance of the Lord and become completely dependent on him. The highest achievement of perfect civilization is to work with valor, but at the same time depend completely on the Lord. The Pandavas were the ideal executors of this standard of civilization. Undoubtedly, they were completely dependent on the goodwill of Lord Sri Krishna, but they were not idle parasites of the Lord. They were all highly qualified, both by personal character and by physical activities. Still, they always looked for the mercy of the Lord because they knew that every living being is dependent by constitutional position. The perfection of life is, therefore, to become dependent on the will of the Lord instead of becoming falsely independent in the material world. Those who try to become falsely independent of the Lord are called anatta, or without any guardian, whereas those who are completely dependent on the will of the Lord are called sanatta, or those having someone to protect them. Therefore, we must try to be sanatta, so that we can always be protected from the unfavorable condition of material existence. By the deluding power of the material nature, by the deluding power of the external material nature, we forget that the material condition of life is the most undesirable perplexity. The Bhagavad Gita therefore directs us, 7:19, that after many, many births, one fortunate person becomes aware of the fact that Vasudeva is all in all, and that the best way of leading one's life is to surrender unto him completely. That is the sign of a Mahatma. All the members of the Pandava family were Mahatmas in household life. Maharaj Yudhishthira was the head of these Mahatmas, and Queen Kunti Devi was the mother. The lessons of Bhagavad Gita and all the Puranas, especially the Bhagavat Purana, are therefore inevitably connected with the history of the Pandava Mahatmas. For them, separation from the Lord was just like the separation of a fish from water. Srimati Kunti Devi, therefore, felt such separation like a thunderbolt. And the whole prayer of the queen is to try to persuade the Lord to stay with them. After the battle of Kurukshetra, although the inimical kings were killed, their sons and grandsons were still there to deal with the Pandavas. It is not only the Pandavas who were put into the condition of enmity, but all of us are always in such a condition. And the best way of living is to become completely dependent on the will of the Lord and thereby overcome all difficulties of material existence. Translation again. O my Lord, you have executed all duties yourself. Are you leaving us today, though we are completely dependent on your mercy and have no one else to protect us? Now, when all kings are at enmity with us? Om Agana Chimadandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Militang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. In this first canto, you're getting a whiff of love of Krishna in separation. This is what Queen Kunti is alluding to, and this is what she is expressing. Vipralamba bhava, the emotional, ecstatic state of feeling separation from Krishna, which, as you know, in the Bhagavatam, this expression of Vipralamba bhava reaches its pinnacle in the 10th canto with Krishna's intimate associates, the gopis. But don't overlook the fact that you'll find the first fragrances in the first canto. I'd like to take you into Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Sanatana Goswami's extraordinary contribution, presented to you with a beautiful BBT edition, where Narada Muni, as you know, is touring the universe looking for the greatest recipient of Krishna's mercy. He goes from this one to that one to that one. He goes from others preceding Prahlad Maharaj, but he goes to Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj points him to Hanuman. Hanuman points him to the Pandavas headed by Yudhishthira. When Narada Muni is approaching the Pandavas after hearing from Hanuman, these are the greatest devotees, the greatest recipients of Krishna's mercy. Narada Muni, just like he did with Prahlad Maharaj previously, rushed to where this devotee is and sought to worship him. What happened when he did that with Prahlad Maharaj? Prahlad Maharaj was deep in samadhi, meditating. That's his specialty, you know, Prahlad Maharaj, Smaranam. And he sensed that Narada Muni is coming. He's nearby. And so Prahlad came out of his samadhi and indeed saw Narada Muni he saw him with his physical eyes approaching. So Prahlad is ready to greet his guru because Narada Muni is his guru. So Prahlad's trying to worship Narada Muni. And Narada Muni won't let Prahlad worship him. Narada Muni embraces him. You are the greatest devotee. You are the greatest devotee. Narada Muni is just lost in ecstasy. He disregards all guru-disciple external etiquette. And he's embracing Prahlad, but Prahlad's trying to worship him. So then, after some dialogue with Prahlad, Prahlad points him to the Pandavas. And Narada Muni goes racing off to Hastinapur to find the Pandavas. And the same thing, he approaches the Pandavas headed by Yudhishthira Maharaj. And Yudhishthira Maharaj, being a majestic emperor, immediately gathers all the paraphernalia for worshiping Narada Muni. But Narada Muni confiscates all the paraphernalia and starts worshiping the Pandavas. He's offering all just like we had Prabhupada's Guru Puja, and Vaisheshika Prabhu was offering articles to Prabhupada. So Narada Muni started offering all the articles to the Pandavas as well as everyone in their house, even their servants. And Narada Muni presents what he's heard from Prahlad. You are what he's heard from Hanuman, You are the greatest devotees. You are the greatest devotees. And then, like everyone else who Narada Muni has encountered, the devotee or the devotees seek to refute what Narada Muni has said. No, it's not that. Now, sometimes, like in the case of Prahlad, that's Narada Muni's disciple. So Prahlad just couldn't reject everything the Guru says, even though the Guru is glorifying him. So Prahlad kind of does a sidestep. Yeah, it's sort of true what you're saying, but not exactly. Yeah, you say that I always remember Krishna Smaranam no matter what. Well, to tell you the truth, I might have remembered him a few times when I was in danger, but that's about it. But I know someone better You see, I just sometimes remember the Lord, but I don't do any active service. But Hanuman, he's always absorbed in active service. You better go see him. Of course, we should not make the mistake of thinking that Prahlad's Smaranam, his state of always remembering the Supreme Personality of God, is inactivity. Indeed, as you know, Smaranam is one of the 9 processes of devotional service. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Padasevanam. But Prahlad, out of his humility, is trying to work his way around receiving such compliments, such praise from Narada Muni. So in each case, this goes on. Whoever Narada Muni goes to next, I've heard you're the greatest recipient of Krishna's mercy. Looking ahead, let's jump ahead a bit, because the Pandavas are going to send Narada Muni to the Yadavas in Dwarka, headed by Uddhava. So Narada Muni's in ecstasy is going to approach Uddhava. I found the greatest recipient of Krishna's mercy. And Uddhava is going to start crying. Why is Uddhava crying? Because hearing the praise of himself, he's immediately remembering the service done by so many devotees who Uddhava considers much better than him. So this is an interesting way, a beautiful, perfect, transcendental way of receiving commendations from Vaishnavas, that immediately you think of all the devotees who are doing better service. I like to explain to our devotee audiences that no matter what service you're doing right now, whether it's speaking, offering puja, leading kirtan, distributing books, no matter what you're doing, right now at this very moment, somewhere in ISKCON, someone's doing the service better. So I found this is a wonderful way to receive the blessings, the commendations of Vaishnavas while being realistic. Yes, I hear what you're saying, but I know somewhere in the world, maybe Mongolia, maybe Fiji, Siberia, Paraguay. Right now, someone is doing the service better than me. So that's what Uddhava was feeling. He was crying, thinking, I'm remembering all the devotees who are doing so much better. But then, this gets a bit inconceivable. Things take another turn with Uddhava, and he starts feeling transcendental matsarya, transcendental envy and jealousy. Who are all these others who think they're serving Krishna? Krishna's mine. I'm doing great. How can that be expressed without any material contamination? It's a great wonder. I've been thinking about it over and over again for months now. Usually you think envy it's material contamination. But actually, as Srila Prabhupada once explained, envy actually is indirect appreciation, because you only envy someone who does something better or has something better. In the case of Uddhava's matsarya, his jealousy, it was not an attempt to bring anyone down. That kind of attempt is usually the result of material envy. We've heard ISV has distributed so many books. Really? Who cooked their books? Well, they've got Vaisheshika Prabhu. What do you expect? I mean, he does everything. They do nothing. That's what an envious person would say. But Uddhava's jealousy was not like that. His jealousy was an ecstatic love of Krishna, and it deepened his relationship with Krishna, just like the envy of who in the topmost portion of the spiritual world, in the most confidential Leelas, the gopis sometimes express envy and jealousy of one another. But they know it's all for Krishna's pleasure. So Uddhava was able to pull off being transcendentally envious after first manifesting such a display of humility, crying upon hearing glorification of himself, remembering all the other better servitors. But now he's switched into this Transcendental Matsarya, and I'm doing great service. I'm Krishna's advisor and friend. Who are these others? But this is a transcendental emotion. Krishna is mine. His service is mine. I know it's a little hard to understand, isn't it? So let's go back to Narada Muni and the Pandavas. We fast forwarded a bit. Now we're going to rewind. So we'll focus specifically on Narada's hearing from Kunti Devi, because she's the mother of the Pandavas. And so she's going to respond to Narada Muni's glorification, that she says, yes, I got Krishna's mercy. And it's true that I got that mercy more than even Devaki, because throughout repeated catastrophes and calamities and dangers, Krishna came quickly to rescue the Pandavas and me. Whereas Devaki, this is Kunti Devi's presentation, bear in mind, Devaki was in prison for a long time before Krishna came and saved her. He killed Kamsa, but that was after a long time. And so that was once after a long time. And then Devaki wasn't so completely satisfied. She wanted Krishna to get back her 6 killed sons. Not only that, but Devaki had others to depend on. She had her husband Vasudeva. But who do I have? I have no one. I'm husbandless, Kunti Devi explained. So therefore, I got more mercy. So you might say, well, that sounds very good. So what is she, is she complaining about something to Narada Muni? Yes. She says, but it's all gone now. The best thing that can happen to me is to die, because Krishna is gone. He's in Dwarka, absorbed with the Yadavas. So this is sounding like she's complaining. But actually, this complaining is an expression of Vipralamba Bhava, feeling of separation. The best thing that can happen to me is to die right now. Krishna is gone. He's not coming back. He's not coming back to Hastinapur. He's so absorbed in Dwarka with the Yadavas. They are the real devotees. Now, one thing we skipped over. When Narada Muni first encountered the Pandavas, he's racing into Hastinapur. Pandavas, greatest recipients of Krishna's mercy. What does he find the Pandavas doing? They're plotting how to bring Krishna back. And how do they think? How do they strategize to bring Krishna back? They say, well, maybe we can... it's time for a yagya, an Ashvamedha yagya. That'll do it. A huge sacrificial event. Krishna will come for that. But then again, no. To prepare an Ashvamedha yagya takes too long. We want Krishna to come as soon as possible. How about concocting that there's danger from enemies? That'll bring Krishna right away. So Sanatana Goswami, in his commentary, explains that there are 2 kinds of dangers for such devotees. The first kind of danger is created by the Lord himself to show the glories of his devotees. The second type of danger is a simulation of danger concocted by devotees so that they can bring about Krishna's presence. So here in this verse we're doing today, you find that Kunti Devi is presenting what she sees as a real threat and a real reason why Krishna should not leave Hastinapur and go to Dwarka. Oh, my Lord, you've executed all duties yourself. We know that you are the supreme controller, the supreme doer. So now you're leaving us today? We are completely dependent on your mercy. We have no one else to protect us. Don't think that everything is fine now just because the Battle of Kurukshetra is practically over. It's in its last minutes. What's going to happen? Although so many warriors are dead, their children, their relatives will still be alive, and they'll cause havoc for us. So you have to stay. Don't think everything is fine. It's a very clever and possibly true presentation. But you see, in the ecstasy of love of Krishna, this is impending separation. She's pulling out whatever she can, sincerely. Maybe some of you have done this in your family affairs. You made a presentation to your spouse. Now, you can't do this because... and you're sincere about it, but you're grasping for straws, as they say. You got to find a reason. Don't you know such and such and such and such? And the other person, your spouse, will, okay. So Kunti Devi is, in her reverential way, she's twisting Krishna's arm. Look, everything is not all right. There's still danger. You should stay. So what about this Vipralamba Bhava? I explained some in Mayapur. How the ordinary understanding is that we think it's painful, but after the pain of Vipralamba, feeling separation, there's the joy of meeting. That's the conventional understanding, Sanatana Goswami says. But the actual confidential understanding is that the pain itself is the topmost pleasure. And he says the proof is that the topmost devotees always pray to experience love of Krishna in separation, to experience the agony. So normally, as I said, we would think that the separation is blissful because it brings about the state of meeting. And that's where the real happiness is. As the expression normally is, no pain, no gain. So, they're going through the agony of separation, but soon they'll be meeting Krishna, and that'll make all the agony worthwhile. No. The full understanding given by the acharyas is that the pain of separation is exquisitely the most beautiful, the most blissful state. What do you think? So as I was explaining in Mayapur, Sanatana Goswami gives the example of ice. What happens when someone takes some ice straight out of the freezer and sticks it on your arm? What do you feel? Huh? No, you feel it burning. How can ice burn? Ice is actually cold, but you feel it as, externally you feel it as burning. Similarly, love of Krishna and separation seems painful from the external point of view, but from the inside, it's actually the highest pleasure. What do you think of that? So speaking again, what we explained in Mayapur, I remembered Srila Prabhupada preaching to George Harrison. You know, the famous musician who helped distribute so many books because, as Vaisheshika Prabhu can tell you, one of our prominent Sankirtan opening lines was, when distributing Krishna book back in the 70s, was, look, introduction by George Harrison. So Prabhupada was preaching to him, and he was explaining to George what is love of Krishna in separation. So Prabhupada said to George and the room full of devotees, you're outside, you're in the sun. Suddenly the sun disappears behind the clouds. What do you feel? And the devotees, logically, they thought, responded, you feel cold. You would say the same thing, right? the changey weather, this happens. I know in New Zealand all the time, weather changes. 1 minute you're in the full sunshine, the next minute sun goes behind clouds. So yes, I feel suddenly cold. Prabhupada said, no, you feel separation from the sun. That's an existential state, a bhava. So he gave that example to George Harrison. This is like what is love of Krishna and separation. It's an existential state in which you actually have Krishna even more. Just like when the sun goes behind the clouds, you're sun conscious. You're not simply cold. Oh, you're actually, if you think about it, you're feeling the absence of the sun. Where did the sun go? Sun, when are you coming out again? A beautiful example. What I didn't say in Mayapur was an example. I was explaining this during the Soviet bloc days. I was in Prague, the capital of then Czechoslovakia, which was under Soviet domination / oppression. So I was meeting devotees from various Eastern Bloc countries. And we couldn't meet in a hotel room because all the hotel rooms are bugged. And so I rented a car. And yes, we were worried the car is bugged, but at some point you had to just do what you had to do. So the four leaders, some from Poland, some from East Germany, some from Bulgaria, we piled them into the car and drove to a lonely dead-end street to do what? They had traveled by train 12 hours, 16 hours, just to sit in a parked car and talk about Krishna. Just see how fortunate you are. And yet we complain, right? Oh, I don't know if I'm going to the temple today. Traffic is a bit much. How will I find a parking space for my car? I have a Tesla. I don't want anyone bumping into it. Anyway, so can you imagine traveling on a train for 12 hours, 14 hours from one country to another? And what do you have to look forward to? Sitting in a parked car on a lonely street talking about Krishna. That's it. And that's what we did. And then after 2 days of that, another 12, 14-hour train ride back to your home. So we were sitting in the car talking about Krishna, having such a wonderful time, because this is dependency on Krishna. There's nothing else. Just Katha, the sound vibration. No deities, no feasts. But these devotees were so satisfied. Oh, we got a chance to talk about Krishna and hear about Krishna. So I was explaining what Prabhupada said about what is love of Krishna and separation, and the example he gave about the sun. So as I was speaking it, suddenly the sun went behind the clouds, and all the devotees said, wow, we got it. I could see Krishna was blessing them. These were leaders of the underground Sankirtan movement. Vaisheshika Prabhu was describing how when we first started trying to infiltrate Prabhupada's books into these countries, we would take 5 books and hide them in a big sack of flour, or wrap them in aluminum foil and hide them in the engine block. And we thought, wow, we got 5 Ishopanishads into that country. Haribol. Big time. Because Srila Prabhupada had said, if his books are distributed in the Soviet bloc's finished. We couldn't see how that would be true, but we acted according to our tiny capacity. We acted on that instruction. So by the time, after 6 years of trials and tribulations, agonies and hardships, some or other, we figured out how to send tractor trailer loads of books, 10,000 at a time, straight from the printer behind the Iron Curtain. We gave a few gifts, shall we say. We learned the art of gift giving to show our appreciation. So the tractor trailers would just go from the printer in Germany, through East Germany, across the border, into the Soviet bloc, and the devotees are waiting for the tractor trailer to arrive. You wouldn't believe how quickly they unloaded a tractor trailer full of like 10,000 Krishna books, 10,000 Bhagavad Gitas, and distributed them to safe houses all over the city, because you couldn't have them all in one place. So I remember one Christmas marathon. This is when one particular country in the Soviet bloc was on the verge of uprising. Looked like they were going to get away with it. And the devotees took advantage of the political situation to come out on the streets and distribute books, which formerly was considered impossible. But because there were so many demonstrations in the street, this is how to take advantage of politics. There were so many demonstrations, freedom, liberation. Devotees said, well, we'll go out there and distribute books. There's so much commotion, no one will notice. And it was the middle of the winter, not like a California winter, but like a Canadian winter. But they would go out with these backpacks full of hardcover Gitas, and they were so happy that the tears were freezing to their cheeks. Now just think of the opportunity you have. But they had practically zero opportunity. There's a few breaks in the clouds where they could go out. And they were so happy, so grateful, so thankful. They were crying, and the tears were freezing to their cheeks. And you know, I've explained before, but maybe it was years ago. You've probably forgotten. People, you know what they were charging for a hardcover Bhagavad Gita? A full month's salary. And people were taking them like mad. Full month's salary. They would go to the central square of the city, because old European cities have the city square. And that's where the main shops are, the post office, this and that. So they would, with their backpack full of books, they would go to the city square and pass the word. Mystical books printed in the West. Mystical books about India printed in the West. And the whole squares would start buzzing. And then the devotee would disappear onto a side street. He would give instructions. If you want to know more, come see me on the side street. And the devotee would then disappear onto the side street. And I was seeing in the whole city square, you would see like 30 persons sneaking down the side street. And they would line up to where the devotee was on the side street. They would line up with a month's salary in their hands to buy a Bhagavad Gita. And they were so grateful. So back to George Harrison. I was, as a young Sankirtan devotee, trying to follow in the footsteps of the big guns like Vaisheshika Prabhu, so on and so forth. This is back in 1974. So we were doing a concert in a big coliseum, a George Harrison concert, in one of those huge arenas that holds 15,000 people. And so we would distribute books to the people going into the concert, and then we had tickets. We would go into the concert itself, and the first place we would go to position ourselves before the concert started was these arenas. I don't know how many of you have been to these big arenas, coliseums. I don't know what the equivalent is in San Francisco area, but they have these huge bathrooms. You've never been inside these places. You don't go to professional sports games. Too busy focusing on serving Krishna. So they have huge bathrooms, like with 10 toilets and 10 urinals, 10 sinks. And so we would wait outside, right outside the bathroom door, as the men were going in. Excuse me. We have these books from George Harrison. And then we got really enthusiastic. We go inside the bathroom, right as the men were approaching the urinals. Excuse me. We have these books from George Harrison. He wants you to have one. We were very enthusiastic. So then the concert started. And when the concert starts, we go into the seating area, 15,000 seats, and we just approach the people on the rows at the end of the row, you see, because you couldn't get into the row. It would be too much of a problem. But the people sitting at the end of the aisle, we would approach them and just go up and down, up and down. So then, while George is playing, he had one famous Indian musician of back then called Ravi Shankar. He was playing with George, playing sitar. So George makes an announcement. And the next song will be, I Miss You, Lord Krishna, Where Are You? I heard that, and I immediately loaded up my arms with 20 Krishna books. Somehow or other, I was able to hold on to 20 hardback Krishna books. And so I just stood in the aisle near the back wall of the auditorium, waiting for George to finish his song. 20 his books are very heavy, but I know what's going to happen as soon as he finishes singing. So he finished his song, I Miss You, Lord Krishna, Where Are You? And I yelled out, Krishna books! Krishna books! 50 people jumped out of their seats and ran towards me with money in their hands. They pressed me up against the wall, grabbing all the books. And in 5 minutes, I had distributed 50 hardcover Krishna books. That is the testimony to Prabhupada's explaining to George Harrison. In a way, George could understand what is love of Krishna and separation. So that's the sign, as I like to point out, this is the sign of the greatest teacher. He's able to take the most esoteric, mystical reality and encapsulate it in a way that even someone who's not even a full practicing devotee can grasp a tiny bit of it. And of course, love of Krishna and separation is like an endless ocean. As Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Krishnadas Kaviraj says, I'm just trying to give you one drop. And that one drop is enough to drown the universe. So there is an example of Srila Prabhupada's greatness and the effect it had on others. So Kunti Devi is giving you, as we said in the beginning, a taste, premonition of the full impact of love of Krishna and separation you'll get in the 10th canto. And so she's saying to Krishna, you can't go now. But she's doing it in a reverential way. She's not an intimate associate like Yashoda Mai. But she's doing the best she can. Look at the situation around us. You can't go now. You've saved us so many times. And remember the list she gives in the beginning of her prayers? The poison cake plot engineered by Duryodhana, the house-burning plot engineered by Duryodhana. So many catastrophes. And Krishna, you were there. And now you're leaving? And you know the famous prayer, which takes quite some realization to swallow. Your leaving is the real catastrophe, not these other events that are happening. The real catastrophe is we won't have your presence anymore. Therefore, I say, let those catastrophes happen again and again. I remember once behind the Iron Curtain, we were having an initiation ceremony. I wasn't the initiator, it was one of my godbrothers. And so he said to me, pick out a verse from Bhagavatam, just like whenever Vaisheshika Prabhu is on some kind of Zoom call, BBT, whatever, they always say, Vaisheshika Prabhu, can you pick out a verse? He's always got some verse ready. So my godbrother who was doing the initiation ceremony, we just gone through a funny incident. We had, for the sake of the yajna, brought some bananas into the country from abroad because the country just had cabbages and apples. So the day before the yajna, I gave the bananas to the devotees. Take care of these. For the first time in a yajna behind the Iron Curtain, we're going to have bananas to put in the fire. We're going to be super pucka. So then the next morning, time for the yajna. Okay, bring those bananas. And they brought me bananas, and the bananas were totally blackish. I said, what did you do with the bananas? Why are they blackish? Well, we wanted them fresh for the yajna, so we put them in the freezer. Those are the days. So my godbrother said, pick out a verse. And so I said, well, what about this one? Vipada Santuta Shasvat. Let these calamities happen again and again. He said, you want to scare everyone? They'll think this is what we're signing up for? Get me out of here. We're already living in a catastrophe. We don't need to pray, let these catastrophes happen again and again. How Queen Kunti really felt that. It takes a lot of prayer and a lot of deep introspection. The real calamity is you're leaving Hastinapur. So in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Sanatana Goswami reports that Kunti Devi is saying, Krishna has gone to Dwarka. He's with the Yadavas. They're so much more intimate with Krishna than we are. He'll never come back. I might as well die. So you're getting a taste of this in this verse. Are you leaving us now? We're completely dependent on you. So much inimical politics is possible. What else? We could go on, but I'm thinking what to go to next. One of the things she says is trying to understand. People try to understand the reason for Krishna's appearance. Is it because of the demoniac kings and the report by the Devatas to Brahma that the earth is troubled? Is that one reason? Or some say to revive the process of hearing and chanting, which Prabhupada points out in his purport. That's actually the real reason for Krishna's appearance. Because you've heard on the internet, what is king? Content is king. Krishna is the greatest content creator. He performs Leelas to attract your mind. This is what Shukadeva Goswami explains at the end of the 9th canto, chapter 24. In order to create content, knowing that Kali Yuga is coming, Krishna acts in a certain way so that the devotees can fix their mind on his activities, his Leelas, and in that way be safe from Kali Yuga. He's knowing Kali Yuga is coming soon. I have to create content. So remember, Krishna is the king of content. So Kunti Devi is flipping through various reasons why people say Krishna appeared. She says, some say that he came to glorify the dynasty of Yadu. Others say he came to glorify King Yudhisthira. So what about this King Yadu? Do you remember the history of Yadu in the 9th canto, the son of Yayati? Everyone knows? Yayati, the king, got into a bit of trouble with his father-in-law. And the father-in-law was angry. The father of Yayati's wife, one of his wives, he's a Kshatriya, the father-in-law cursed him. You've done something you shouldn't have done. You've diminished the luster, the prestige of my daughter whom you married. I'm cursing you. This is Shukracharya. He's got Brahminical power, which he often misuses. I'm cursing you that you'll be prematurely old. You're going to be right now afflicted by old age. What would you do if that happened to you? You're in your prime and someone says, I curse you now to be an old person. So Yayati panicked. Oh no. And he explained, please, I haven't fulfilled all my material desires yet. And by the way, I'm married to your daughter. She has not fulfilled all her material desires yet. If I'm afflicted by old age, that means that our enjoying days are over. And by the way, I'm married. Let me remind you once again, I'm married to your daughter. So Shukracharya did a quick calculation. I wanted to strike back at Yayati, but this is affecting my daughter, his wife. Okay, we'll modify the curse. Find someone to whom you can transfer this curse of old age and take their youth. Find someone who will take your premature old age and give you their youth. Now, who's going to do that? But Shukracharya implied that one of your sons should do that because the request of the father cannot be violated. That is traditional dharma. So Yayati had to offload his premature old age onto someone, and obviously one of his sons would be the only person who would voluntarily accept that. So he first goes to the oldest son. Isn't that normal? Even today in traditional Indian households, the oldest son still has some special impact. I know it's changing, but just like in Vrindavan, Lowy Bazaar, so many of those businesses, when I first went to Lowy Bazaar in 1977, so many of those businesses were run by fathers who had 5 sons, and the sons assisted the father. And then the tradition was that when the father passed away, the oldest son would be the key business holder and decision maker, along with the help of his younger brothers. But what do you think happens these days? All the brothers quarrel, and they have to divide up the business so that each brother has his own business because they can't get along. You know, Ganga Prasad Shamsundar Lal, there's an example of that. So Yayati is acting on the traditional Vedic household setup. I go to the oldest son, Yadu, please give me your youth. I haven't finished in fulfilling my material desires. I'll give you this old age. And Yadu tells him, sorry, can't do that. This seems like a dharma, violating the request of the father. But remember, the 4 Kumaras violated Brahma's request to marry. But it's not considered a dharma. Why? Because they had a higher reason to engage more fully in devotional service. So that was the reason for Yadu's declining. No. He said, first of all, I'm going through the whole Vedic process, the various ashramas. I'm going to wind up being renounced. But first I have to go through the legitimate stage of Grihastha life, He's not talking about becoming wild in the Western way. Soon becoming also in Bharat. He's not talking about that. He's talking about going through regulated Vedic household life. So he said, I've got to go through that phase because I don't want to delay my household life, being prematurely old. I want to go through it so I can get as quickly as possible to the stage of renunciation. But if I take your old age now, that's going to set me back. Now, Yadu knew, I know you're going to at some point give me my youth back. I know you're going to do that. He had that faith. But I don't want to go through this delay. I want to go through what I got to go through right now in the official Vedic regulated way, and then emerge from out on the other side. But if I take your old age now, it sets the whole process back. But there's another reason. Yadu knew, it's predicted that when I have a dynasty, when I have my own offspring, and they have offspring, in that dynasty, Krishna is going to appear. I want Krishna to appear as soon as possible. So I got to get into my household life, start the dynasty, because Krishna is going to be a member of my dynasty. So in this way, Yadu's reasons were totally exemplary, even though he's refusing his father. So what happened then? His father turns to 3 other brothers. And what was their response? No way! How can we give up what is eternal, our youth? How can we spoil our material enjoyment? No way! That was adharma. That's irreligion. So finally, Yayati turns to the youngest son, Puru. Will you please give me your youth in exchange for my old age? And Puru condemns himself that actually you shouldn't have had to ask me. The first-class son anticipates the request of the father and is already onto it, even without being asked. I'm second class because you had to ask me. The third-class son externally accepts the order of the father, but is very resentful about it and very irreverent, very casual, or begrudging about it all. I got to do this. And the fourth-class son totally rejects the request of the father. So Puru said, I'm second class. Sorry you had to ask me. I should have anticipated your request. Then I would be a first-class son. So that's how Yayati resolved his situation. So Kunti Devi is saying in one of her prayers, I've heard that you're focusing on the prayers by Queen Kunti. So in one of her prayers, she says, some say you've appeared for the glorification of Yadu. So this is the Yadu, the son of Yayati that we're talking about. Others say you have appeared to stop the commotion caused by demoniac kings. I wonder, do we have time to go into some transcendental politics? An ISV special. I have never spoken about this before, so I'm going to try it out on you. Especially now is a great time in the good old USA to be far from the maddening crowd, unless you're distributing books and doing Harinam. But those activities are indeed far from the maddening crowd. So let's talk about the Raja Vidya of transcendental politics. First, we'll give you some mundane insight. I know you're all very intelligent and sharp. Here's some insight into the nature of Kali Yuga. Irrespective of whatever political party you support, whatever material, political, economic conceptions you have, irrespective of all that, the fact is Kali Yuga is at work. So one prominent historian says that politics is about the systematic organization of hatreds. And what does Prabhupada say? Prabhupada says economic growth, which I call economic growthism. I'll explain that later. Economic growth means the systematic organization of lusts. So what is this growthism? It's the Shuddha Sattva principle, quote unquote, that everyone agrees with in Maya. That no matter what your ethnicity is, no matter what your religion is, whether you're rich or poor, everyone agrees. There must be economic growth ever increasing. Everyone agrees on that. It's, as I said, it's the Shuddha Sattva principle, untouchable. You may argue about how the wealth is distributed, but who disagrees with the need for constant economic growth? If you want to get technical, for constant economic growth, there needs to be at least 2 to 3% economic growth every year. It has to go on and on and on. Every year has to be an increase. And as soon as there's a stagnancy, as soon as the economic growth languishes, then people get restless. Oh, what's happening? Oh, who's getting more than me? And why isn't there constant economic growth? Never mind the constant economic growth is destroying the environment. That's all right. But there must be constant economic growth. Never mind that in the USA, as the Surgeon General says, he says the defining reality of public health in the USA is that there is an epidemic of youth mental health crisis. So never mind all that. Just grow the economy. You're running for office? How are you going to have economic growth? How are you going to increase the economic growth? That's what everyone's interested in. It's the otum protum. As Bhagavatam talks about Krishna being the horizontal and vertical thread that keeps the cloth together. Similarly, in Kali Yuga, the so-called otum protum is economic growth. Who is going to complain about that? You'll complain that you're not getting your share, but you won't complain about growthism that's destroying the environment, destroying people's mentalities, preventing people from being satisfied with spiritual development. We're all for growthism, but spiritual growthism. But when in Kali Yuga, the emphasis is on monetary growth for success, for status, for feeling fulfilled, then you have mayhem. Then you have a disaster. And that's what's going on today. So Prabhupada's insight is I find it very essential. Economic growth, growthism, means the systematic organization of lusts. Lust organized, individual lust organized on a societal scale. And what does Krishna say about lust in Bhagavad Gita? Dusparena nalenacha. Burns like fire, never satisfied. No matter how much you get of what you think you want, you're never satisfied. And then one mundane historian says that politics is about the systematic organization of hatreds. So how would you explain that? Why the hatred? It's what's going on is far from what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Vidya, what? Brahmane. Yes. Is that what's going on in politics today? Everything is body-based, material-based. What is your ethnicity? What is your gender preference? Those are the important characteristics. And how can these misidentifications be manipulated? Let me explain more. This is a little political psychology. And it's very timely now. Regardless of what your political conceptions are, we're not getting into all that. There are two things: anger and anxiety. In order to systematically organize hatreds, you as a Kali Yuga leader have to know how to manipulate anger and anxiety. So anger in political psychology is known as an approach motion, an approach emotion. It allows you to, by approach, it means I want to do something. You get ready to do something. You can be mobilized because of anger. Whereas anxiety is known as an avoidance emotion. Anxiety immobilizes you. You don't know what to do. You just feel something's wrong. You're on edge. You can't put your finger on what the cause is or who the blame is. You're immobilized. So the whole point of Kali Yuga politics is what? To get you from anxiety to anger. How transcendental is that? Anger makes us participate. Let's do something about it. Whereas anxiety does the opposite. I don't know. There's nothing you can do. I mean, things are just the way they are, and I don't know who to blame or what I should do. Maybe I'll just play pickleball or something. So here's how to induce anger. Because in Kali Yuga, as a successful politician, you've got to stir up anger. Because anger does what? Mobilizes people, mobilizes voters. So here's how you do it. First, you need a unified group identity. You are your upadi. You are your material designation. You should feel that unity with others of the same material designation, whether it's the same ethnicity, the same religion, whatever. You have your group. And guess what? Not only do you unify yourself on the bodily platform, but in order to swing into action, you need a threat. So there's two things. Your unified group and the threat. Your problems that are affecting your group are caused by, oh, thank you so much. Now I understand where all my problems are coming from. It's because of, fill in the blank as you like. I'm not going to fill in the blanks for you. Whether immigrants or Muslims or Hindus or thises or that's or purple striped people or whatever. They are the reasons why you don't have all the money that you should be having. I remember when I first tried to become a devotee, still trying, and my parents noticed I was reading these books from India, and they reminded me, because every time as kids, we would sit down at the dinner table, and we wouldn't finish all our spinach. We didn't like spinach back then. Mother would say, remember what? Remember the starving people in India. Now, what does my mother say? Oh, those people from India, they're smart. They take all the good jobs. This is material world. Adi bhutam shuro bhava, as Krishna says. Material world is endlessly mutable, constant changes. So anyway, my mother, she's not into the anger and threat syndrome. But anyway, you have to have a threat to your group so you can mobilize. So you have anger. No, you have unity. And then you have the threat, which leads to anger. And then mobilization. Strong group identity, identifiable threat, and then anger. Whereas anxiety happens when you don't have this strong group identity. You don't have an identifiable threat. So you find persons who are angry, or you make them angry because of a threat and based on their unity, on their material identity. You find them, people who are feeling, my My perch on the tree is collapsing. I'm falling back. And it's because of, now I understand. So you create a narrative for them. This is the reason why you're not getting what you want. You deserve it. You can become great again, but it's because of, let's say, it's because of the Indian people taking all the Silicon Valley jobs. You got to make up something, no matter what political party you're from. This is what you got to do in Kali Yuga to stay in office. Everyone is afraid of falling back. And so if you can get them to think that your progress has been impeded, in fact, you're losing your progress because of people get angry. They move from beyond anxiety, which is demotivating. They move to anger, which is mobilizing. So you got to point your finger at someone. So in this way, people are manipulated, and this is mundane politics. Whereas what Krishna is doing in Bhagavad Gita is not mundane politics. He wants the Pandavas in and the Kauravas out. So as Prabhupada explains, Krishna is making politics, but he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has a right to do that. I want these people in, I want those people out. Because the Pandavas were his devotees. What does Prabhupada explain in the purport in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita? Evam parampara praptam imam rajasya vidu. I explain this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to the Rajarshis, the saintly kings. Why? In the purport it says that the government, led by real leaders, is supposed to protect the people from lust. How many of your political candidates promise to do that? No. They protect you from lust. We'll help you with your lust. Vote for me. Your lusts will be fulfilled. And we'll help you to identify the threats to your lust and greed program. And then you can get angry, and your contributions to our campaign will increase. Oh, how wonderful is that? But in a real human society, which we don't have today, the heads of state are supposed to protect the people from lust, anger, and greed. Whereas, as we said, now it's, where's my lust? I don't have enough greed. I need more greed. Who can I be angry at? And the leaders help you to do that. They have nothing better to offer. So this is why Krishna says, I spoke this Bhagavad Gita so it was handed down through the saintly kings, the saintly heads of state, the chief executives, so they could do their service of protecting the people from lower desires. What do we have going on today? Totally the opposite. Now let's talk about the last thing. I got a long list here, but you're the first ones I'm trying this all out on you. Because ISV is famous for its, well, you've got Radhika Raman coming here. You have Vaisheshika Prabhu here all the time. So you're used to erudite presentations. So not that I'm presenting anything erudite, but I'm seeking to serve this wonderful congregation of devotees. So why is it people are so susceptible to being bewildered, to being hyped? Yes, it's Kali Yuga, but what are the mechanics of Kali Yuga? Listen to this. Two people understand the same thing, a propagandist and a magician. How many of you have been to circuses before? Raise your hand. Taking your kids to circuses. Is there still Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey Circus? That's still going around? I went to that as a kid. So P.T. Barnum, who was the founder of circuses, he understood the psychology of the circus goers. They want to experience the thrill of being tricked. And that means not so much the trick itself, But they want to think, well, how did he do that? Like the circus would present the mermaid from Fiji. You know what a mermaid is? It's a mythical creature. Probably exists somewhere in the universe on some planet. But anyway, in Western culture, mermaids are known as mythological. So people, they're not so much mesmerized by the mermaid from Fiji herself, but they're thinking, how is that done? How's this trick manifesting? What's behind it all? That's what they're really paying for. You don't think ordinarily in that way. You think you're taking your kids to the circus, and the kids are, oh, a mermaid from Fiji. Oh, Mata Pita. Oh. The kids may be responding in that way, but the adults who are paying for the kids to go to the circus, whoa, how do they do that? It's amazing. So people, even they're being tricked, they don't mind as long as it's an opportunity for them to wonder, wow, you're a great trickster. How did you pull that one over on us? So political scientists know that this applies also to elections, to Kali Yuga choosing of leaders. Well, all right, you lied, but wow, amazing how you got away with it. So we think that just give the people the truth, and that will suffice. But actually, you'd be surprised that people don't so much want the truth. Sometimes you see, intellectuals especially, they'll just gnash their teeth, grind their teeth. Why don't people pay attention to the facts? But the Kali Yuga politicians of whatever stripe, no, you really don't want the facts. You want a plausible narrative, a plausible story, in which the story can be composed of outlandish so-called facts, but if the whole package is attractive, people will swallow it. So people want a story that will relieve them of anxieties. They want a story that points out a target. These are the ones who are threatening your group. That's what they want. And never mind whether it's factual or not. If the facts all become elements of the overall package, the overall narrative, the overall story, people go for it. And now I see the light. Now I understand why I'm in anxiety. Now I understand why I'm not getting what I want. Now I understand why I don't have all the money I want. Thank you. Yeah, I'll swallow that story. That's what's going on. What does Bhagavatam say in the beginning? Separates reality from illusion for the benefit of all. This is the great contribution of the Sankirtan mission. In an age of alternative facts, an age often called the post-truth age. Post-truth means not so much that people are hearing the wrong thing and they don't know what is true, they don't know what is false. It's that they don't care anymore what's true and what's false. Everything is possible. Nothing is true. Whatever. Make me feel good. Give me a good sounding story, and I'll vote for you. This is what's going on. This is the nature of Kali Yuga. The last leg of Dharma the bull, truthfulness, is gone. So political scientists point out that if you're a Kali Yuga leader, they don't use the term Kali Yuga, of course. If you're a Kali Yuga leader, we'll use it. If you're a Kali Yuga leader, what's your ideal dummy for you to manipulate? It's not someone who's so convinced on the far left or the far right. You want someone who's just so bewildered. There's so much out there. Who knows who's right? Who knows who's wrong? Who cares? Just give me a good story. I'm so disorientated. I lost my bearings in an ocean of alternate facts. I don't know what is what. I don't care anymore. Make me feel good. Point out the enemy. Point out who's causing all my problems. That's what I want to hear. In Bhagavad Gita, what does Krishna say? Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha. One of the problems is that people hear so many spiritual teachers, so-called spiritual teachers, so many spiritual solutions, so many spiritual books, that they just finally get angry. Krodha. It's all just hooey. It's all just illusion. So that's the ideal state of affairs, the ideal psychological state for a Kali Yuga politician. I want you so bewildered, so angry, and so frustrated that you can't tell right from wrong, truth from false, that you'll just let me into your emotions and stir you up, sell you a simple narrative that swings you into action, mobilizes you in a way that I want. So intellectuals are always scratching their heads. I'm giving people the facts. Can't they see? But in Kali Yuga, people don't want facts. They want to feel good. Give me a story that sounds good. What did the Nazi propaganda chief say? Same principle goes on all the time. He said, make a big lie, and the bigger the lie is, and the more frequent you say the big lie, the more people will believe it. But two things have to be there. It's a big lie, and it's repeated frequently. And then people say, yeah, could be true. Yeah, why not? What the heck? No one really knows anyway, but yeah, sell me what you want to sell me. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'll kill. I'll get it. I'll be stirred up. I'll do violence. Yeah. Those are the enemy? They're the reasons why I'm not getting what I want? Okay, let's get them. It's Kali Yuga. So once again, let us think of Krishna's standard, and I'll conclude. I could go on for a while, but I'm just trying this out on you. 5th canto, chapter 15, text 7, King Gaya. He did 4 things to demonstrate what is a real head of state. What's a real president? Number 1, Poshana. He gave full protection and security to the citizens so that their personal property was not disturbed by undesirable elements. He also saw there was sufficient food to feed all the citizens. This is called Poshana. And sometimes he would do Prinana, distribute gifts to the citizens to satisfy them. And sometimes Upalalana. He would call meetings of all the citizens and satisfy them with sweet words. And then, we could say most importantly, Upalalana. He would call meetings and give the citizens good instructions how to become first-class citizens. None of that do you see going on today. Giving citizens instruction how to become first-class citizens means teach them how to rise above lust, anger, and greed. Instead, you have the opposite today. How to be more greedy, how to be more lusty, how to be more angry. Vote for me. I'll set you free from any sense control, mind control. You'll be at the complete mercy of a consumer society that's destroying the earth. But don't worry that it's destroying the earth. Why worry about that? Anyway, the adults won't be around for the main environmental havoc. It's just your children will have to cope with it. This is known as intergenerational tyranny. We'll screw up the world as adults, and the children, they'll figure out something. Right? So this is all to point out why more and more we need an increase in the Sankirtan movement. Reality distinguished from illusion for the benefit of all. So just by hearing about Maharaj Gaya, he's known as a Mahapurusha because he gave the citizens all material and spiritual facilities. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, This is the bhakti yoga process. Due to all these transcendental activities, King Gaia was always free from the bodily conception. He was full in Brahman realization. To be full in Brahman realization means Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan iti Shabdyate. He's Bhagavan realized. That's full, not partial Brahman realization. Therefore, he was always jubilant. He did not experience material lamentation. Although he was perfect in all respects, he was not proud, nor was he anxious to rule the kingdom. So this is reality distinguished from illusion for the benefit of all. Hare Krishna.
Yes.
All right, any questions?
Yes.
Oh, comments from Vaisheshika
questions.
Prabhu?
Maharaj, you're known for going out of your way, that's almost euphemistic, to extend Krishna consciousness to people who don't have any familiarity with it, for instance, in the Eastern Bloc and dangerous situations. And you're also well known for reaching out to those in the kind of society you're describing now and helping them have context to how to take to Krishna consciousness, despite the fact that there's a dearth of information. So what is it that you feel in your heart that drives you to reach out to people around the world in these situations, to give them Srimad Bhagavatam and the practice of Krishna consciousness? Could you describe how you feel about that?
Well, I have to think of my own plight, that I had no intention to become a devotee. His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj, when he heard how I came to bhakti, usually he's very tactful and guarded in his speech, but he suddenly blurted out when he heard my story. He said, "Now I know anyone can become a devotee." I'm trying to become a devotee. So when I think of my own situation, no intent. I've explained to you all before, when I first saw devotees on television. How many of you have seen it's on YouTube, the David Susskind show? How many of you have seen that? Only Vaisheshika Prabhu. You've seen it also? No. Check it out. It's the Hare Krishnas on the David Susskind show. It was first shown in 1972 and then rerun in May of 73. And I happened to see the rerun. I was in my last month at Yale preparing for my finals. My roommate and I were deep into study. We wanted to take a break. We turned on the TV to get a break. He's studying for his physics final. I'm studying for my history final. And so we would watch. You've heard me explain this before. We would watch television with the volume turned down and then speculate on what was happening. Because after all, we were elitist students. We were not ordinary students. We were the top of the Ivy League. We couldn't watch TV in the ordinary way. So the volume would be turned all the way down, and we would just, speculate and imagine what was going on, and that way show our prowess, you know. All of a sudden, we saw these strange-looking persons. The first thing we noted was that the ladies were all totally covered up. And we said, what's wrong with them? Why are they hiding their glories? And we saw the men with these shiny shaved heads and wearing strange cloth. I remember I said to my roommate, I have to change countries, roommate, who are these aliens? Turn up the volume. We can't figure this out. We got to listen. So I started listening to the devotees preaching, and they kept saying over and over again the word ananda. This process will give you ananda. That was preaching back in the 70s, you know. Everything was about ananda. And they went on to explain their lifestyle, rising early in the morning, the bhakti principles of purity. And so I remember I turned to my roommate and said, these people are fools. They've missed the goal of life. Listen to their lifestyle. They don't understand where the action is. They talk about Ananda. We'll invite them to one of our parties. We'll show them what Ananda is. Eight months later, I was in the Brahmacharya ashram. On full-time book distribution. So his Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu was describing one encounter I had in Port Authority. See, I was looking for Srimad Bhagavatam. I was ordering all my books from BBT mail order in LA because I didn't want to associate with devotees. I thought devotees were dreamy, they were hippies, had no practical solutions for the world. But I love the books. So I would order them from LA for the BBT mail order just so I wouldn't have to talk to a devotee. But then one day in the mail, I got a brochure from the BBT announcing the first printing of Srimad Bhagavatam in the West. Because before that, there was just Prabhupada in his New Delhi printed version, very crude. But now there was going to be the deluxe version printed in the West. And the brochure described that this is the encyclopedia of the spiritual world. It takes all the themes of Bhagavad Gita and expands upon them. So I'd already read Bhagavad Gita as it is twice, Nectar Devotion twice, Krishna book twice, Teachings of Lord Chaitanya twice, Isha Upanishad twice. I had to have more books. I was totally addicted, but didn't want it to do anything with devotees. But when I got that notice about Srimad Bhagavatam, I said, I've got to take a risk. I've got to find a devotee. I can't wait 2 weeks for the books to come from LA. I have to have this encyclopedia of the spiritual world now. So to make a long story short, I went to Port Authority bus terminal, as His Grace Vaisheshika would describe, and I wanted to see if the devotee would stop me. So I walked past her once, walked past her twice. She didn't stop me. I had my long suede leather coat on, big Sai Baba hairstyle. Looking as was considered back then a very fashionable New Yorker, Manhattanite. But she wouldn't stop me. I said, all right, she doesn't want to stop me, okay. I'll approach her. So I thought I would approach her and ask an everyday normal question, especially for 1972. I thought I was asking nothing unusual. I walked up to her and said, do you have Srimad Bhagavatam? Her eyes jumped, and then she controlled herself. And how do you know what about that? So I'm not here to answer questions. I just want to know, do you have the book? So wait a minute, how do you know about Srimad Bhagavatam? And this went on and on and on. I couldn't get rid of her. She said, we're trying to have a new building in New York, and I think you could help. It's going to have everything a person like you would want. Library, restaurant, theater, all those things are going to be there. You would love to come to such a place. We just need some money. I said, I've never given a penny in my life in charity, and I'm not about to do it today. She wouldn't take no for an answer. So I said, look, I'll give you some money, but I'll leave it to you in my will. She said, you're 21 years old. You don't have a will. Of course I didn't have a will at 21. I said, well, I've got no money. She said, you sound like a pretty sharp guy. Where'd you go to school? I said, well, I went to Yale. She said, well, if you're not rich now, you're going to be rich. You should give everything to Krishna. I said, give everything to Krishna? She said, yes. It's obvious you've read so many books. I said, but I don't want to give anything. And even if I did want to give something, it's all uptown Manhattan at my father's place. She said, let's go. I was thinking, I am supposed to go to my upscale neighborhood with this strange-looking girl wearing a yellow bed sheet with a white mark on her forehead. What's my reputation in the neighborhood going to be? Of course, it's New York, especially Manhattan. You don't know your neighbors. But anyway, that's what I was thinking. Oh, my God. What will the girls in the neighborhood think? Didn't know any. So anyway, we go on the subway and get to my father's apartment where I was staying, and I told her, you wait on the ground level. I'll take the elevator up to the 14th floor and come down with something. So I came down with, in today's financial equivalence, I came down with a check for $5,000. She took it so humbly. She took it so gently, so devotedly, and then looked me in the eyes and said, this is very nice, but you can give 10. I said, what? I've never given a penny in charity in my life. I gave you a check for $5,000 and you want $10,000? I couldn't get rid of her. Tried and tried and tried. And then Krishna tricked me. I know it was Krishna. The voice in my heart says, surrounding you are all these tall apartment buildings with the floor-to-ceiling windows, you know. Everyone's looking out at you, talking to this strange-looking girl. Better give her what she wants. Your prestige in the neighborhood will be zero. Again, I didn't know anyone in the neighborhood, but so I went back up on the elevator, came down, tore up the first check, and gave her a check for $10,000. I had never been to a temple, never been to a Namhat group, Bhakti San Francisco or Bhakti San Jose or whatever you want to call it. No Namhatas, nothing. But it didn't end there. 2 weeks later, I was going through the bus terminal to catch a bus to New Haven to visit some of my friends there who were in the class behind me, who was still at Yale. And so the devotees saw me going through the bus terminal in New York. There he is. Oh, no. But they wouldn't let me go. And I guess I had read too many books. And so they said, let's go back up to your father's house. Same thing happened again. I gave another check for $10,000. And they looked at me and said, you know, you've given so much money. She actually took my checkbook and looked at it. You've got nothing left. You've given everything to Krishna, $20,000. You know, you might as well come to the temple and see where your money's going to. I said, that sounds like a great idea. That's practical. Let me see where my money is going to. So that's how I first started going to the temple. So understanding where I was at, I know that there are people also like that, who are not overtly religious, but who are looking for the greatest knowledge, the greatest experience. So I thought, how to devise situations where such persons can feel comfortable. They're not immediately attracted to a temple atmosphere, bowing down to deities, walking in and seeing people press their head down, the forehead down to the floor. What are people thinking? These people, I guess these devotees, maybe they lost their car keys and they're down on the floor. And then have to sit on the floor. Most of them can't sit, unless they're yogis, hatha yogis. They can't sit properly on the floor. Sometimes they want to stretch out their legs in front of the deities. And so how to make a lounge-type atmosphere where such people can feel comfortable and hear about Krishna. And most important, especially these days, as people are becoming more and more dumb, the most important thing is prasad that is demolishing, devastating. That's so important. So wherever I go, I'm on a campaign now to revive the old-time quality of prasad. If you're a man here and you've got a wife who can cook, you're satisfied. Prabhupada once said, the happiness of Indian family life is eating. But at so many of our temples, devastating prasad that just knocks you out, unforgettable event, it's not happening. Back in the days of when Vaisheshika Prabhu and I were young devotees, every Sunday feast was a total blast. At the Manor in the UK, devotees were telling me who remembered the 80s, the 70s at the Manor. They said, you would just live from one Sunday feast to the next Sunday feast. I remember in 76, Prabhupada sent a letter, had his secretary send a letter to all the centers saying, I've noticed a decline in the Sunday feast quality. I want that every Sunday feast has 13 preparations. And he listed the preparations. I mean, melpuras and 2 types of halava and 2 sabjis and on it went. So the more that you can give what we call the non-traditional audience, non-familiar with anything, even the remnants of Vedic culture, not familiar at all with that, the more you can capture the tongue, they'll be back. But then you need cooks who can deliver that level of prasad. One last story, because it's getting late. One of my services as a Sankirtan devotee, besides trying to catch up with Vaisheshika Prabhu and his cohorts, one of my services was, you see, we would go out 7 days a week. This is before we learned to take care of our health. We go out 7 days a week, and sometimes late nights, Friday, Saturday night, doing concerts, get back 3 a.m. in the morning, head out to Sankirtan at 8 a.m. It was a Sunday, and we were at Port Authority Bus Terminal distributing so many of the Sankirtan devotees because that was the main Sunday spot. And so I was allowed to leave the Sankirtan spot early to get back to the temple for when the noon offering would come off. That was the Sunday feast offering. And we knew that the cooks would have a meeting in the Sankirtan office and shut the door and evaluate each preparation and give each other feedback. So my job, my divine service was to leave the bus terminal, leave the Sankirtan spot early, get back to the temple, and go to the Sankirtan office with the door was closed and the cooks were inside, and I would put my ear to the door, and with a notepad in my hand, I would write down which are the most ecstatic preparations so that the Sankirtan devotees, when they return, they'd be able to focus their stomachs accordingly. We were serious about it. So I'd have my ear to the door, listening. Sweet rice, devastating. What a knockout. Chutney, so-so. So I would write it all down. And then a few hours later, the Sankirtan devotees would come back from the bus terminal. Okay, what did you hear? What did you hear? Because they had to strategize, strategically plan out their stomach space, you know. They didn't want to expend their stomach space on preparations that weren't totally number one. So I'd give them the list, and then they would sit down at rows for the Sunday feast to be distributed to them. And so they would already know. Apple chutney, all right, not so good today. So the server would come by with apple chutney. Everyone would just... Then they would hear, curd sabji is just devastating. It's a knockout. The server would come by, put one scoop on, another scoop. So the servers never caught on that we had such a strategic military approach because prasad was serious business. So for such kind of prasad, you need dedicated cooks. If you want to preach to the non-traditional world, I don't call it Western outreach because so many of our wonderful Indian devotees are born in the West. They've been in the West for 20 years, so I prefer not to use the term Western outreach. I prefer non-traditional, outreach to the non-traditional audience. It's the tongue that brings them back day after day. So the more you can have your wonderful book distribution aligned with knockout prasad, then you'll make your solid entry into the wild world of the non-traditional people. It's the prasad that brings them back day after day. And then finally the brain starts to clear up and, hey, that philosophy sounds pretty good. Otherwise, it's, hey, I like the Kirtan. It makes me feel free of stress. Okay, see you next month. But if there's devastating prasad, that brings them back day after day because they have to eat somewhere. So at many of our outreach centers, what I have them do is go figure out what the average person in their 20s, a non-traditional person, spends at a fast food place and charge them that. But give them prasad that is exquisite, unforgettable. So they're going to eat somewhere. They don't cook. I wonder how many of our young men from Bharat cook these days. Other than what? Whip up some khichdi or something? How many of our young men from Bharat know how to cook? Raise your hands. Barely 3 raise their hands. Even the ladies, right? I won't ask. So you need persons who understand that preaching, first of all, is book distribution, and then if you want to increase the numbers and increase the group identification of the non-traditionals, it's all about prasad. Otherwise, they come once, they come 2 months later, next year, but when you get them in the stomach, yeah, that Bhagavatam sounds pretty good. And especially, often it's a managemental policy, but if in outreach you can give them ghee, ahimsa ghee, oh, the taste of ghee. Somehow or other, oil has replaced ghee in so many of our centers, but back in the 60s and 70s, everything was about ghee. Oh, that's what kept you alive from one Sunday feast to the next, the taste of ghee. I remember going out on Sankirtan, and we didn't know anything except ghee, so they would pack our lunches at the Brooklyn Temple. There would be a sabji, potatoes, carrots, some kind of spinach, all deep fried in ghee. And then there were breadsticks that thick, white flour, all deep fried in ghee. And then we go out on Sankirtan, have lunch, and of course you know what happened after that. But we couldn't live without that taste. So something for you to keep in mind in your own managemental policies, dealing with your own managemental realities. Prasad distribution for the non-traditionals, that's where it's at. And then you'll see. I remember in New York, there was a time when we were distributing what they would call lugdus, which was a mispronunciation of ladu, but we would say lugdus. They were made of figs and dates and bundi and, they were raisins. They were so luscious. We would pack them during Bhagavatam class, put one in a little bag. We would distribute sometimes 25,000 of those a week. The whole city was going mad. The police would stop us. Hey, you got any of those balls? People would follow me back to the temple. I got to find out where that taste is coming from. Some are even still devotees today. They follow me back from Sankirtan. I got to find out where those balls are coming from. They were exquisite. So the more you combine, it's my opinion, the more you combine the glorious book distribution supplemented by astounding prasad distribution, really good prasad, you'll see the effect. And that's what brings the non-traditionals back day after day. They have to eat somewhere. If you don't give them ecstatic prasad, they'll go to McDonald's, they'll go to Burger King, try to find some vegan fast food somewhere. But if you give them extraordinary prasad, you'll see them at your door all the time. Because everyone has to eat, right? All right. We're getting so late. I could go on and on, taking advantage of your glorious association. I'm just re-energizing myself at the Sankirtan chakra. So forgive me if I've kept you here too long. But I'm being selfish now. So I've indulged enough. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Devamrita Swami is in demand all over the world, and he especially arranged his schedule, even though he was on his way elsewhere from Los Angeles, just to come up here for a couple days, just so that he could have this touch point. And it's made all the difference for us. We can see that when we come in contact with the devotee who's steeped in Srimad Bhagavatam and in teaching Srimad Bhagavatam to the world, we actually imbibe what we're supposed to get from the parampara, the personal realizations, the ecstasy of it. You can see it in Maharaj's countenance. So we're deeply grateful you've taken us on a journey this morning from Vipralamba Bhav all the way to the bus station in New York City, and your personal journey to something very, very practical, which we'll take to heart, and that is devastating prasadam. Thank you for being a leader in the world, for preaching, for reaching out to all those who may not be so easy to reach, and innovating in such a way that we can all follow in your footsteps. And also thank you for being forever a champion of book distribution. Just hearing your encouragement here, it lifts our spirits and makes us want to increase. Please come back as much as possible. Thank you for going off the beaten track to come over here and spend your time with us. Srila Devamrita Swami Ki Jai.
What happens now?
Risheshwari Leela will make an announcement about the next presentation, which will be from one of our youthful devotees.
Hare Krishna, a quick announcement. There is a car which is blocking the Prasad serving area, PSD handyman car. So whose car is that? Can you please, park it somewhere on the street? Thank you for considering the request. Hare Krishna. It's a white car. It's a white, okay, Haribol.
Hare Krishna. That was such a excellent morning program, morning class. Just trying to digest such wonderful realizations Maharaj has so kindly shared with us. It is so interesting how Krishna's mystical way of connecting our next part of the program, which is the presentation. It's from the book Disapproved but Not Disowned. And how Maharaj was talking about his experience of being brought into the temple through the devotees. So this is a story from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's about an unwarranted distraction. I'd like to invite Nimai to share about this story.
The projector is a square, but it needs to be a rectangle like this because then it's information. It's over there.
It looks fine.
They won't fit.
They won't fit? It fits. Oh, it's zoomed out, Mataji. No. Okay, there you go.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, go. Oh. Okay. Mataji, can you activate the mic? Yeah. It's on? It's good. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Not on, Mataji. Can you try? It's not on. Maybe just use this. You want to use this?
Okay, sure. Hare Krishna. My name is Nimai. Today I will be speaking about the 10th chapter, An Unwarranted Distraction, from Gauranga Darshan Das's book, Disapproved but Not Disowned. First, let's outline today's plan. We'll start out with a story about affectionate criticism, then move on to an unexpected recommendation. However, things will take a twist as we discover the power of distractions, then conclude with the servant being served by the master. Our first story, affectionate criticism. After staying in Jagannath Puri for some time, Lord Chaitanya gathered his devotees to request permission for him to tour South India. Although he was going to deliver the people of South India, he gave the excuse that he was going to search for his brother Vishvarupa, even though he knew that Vishvarupa had already passed. Unable to tolerate the pain of separation from the Lord, the devotees requested that at least a few of them accompany the Lord on his tour. But the Lord refused in a very harsh manner. He started accusing the devotees one by one, starting with Lord Nityananda. First, he claimed that Nityananda was the puppeteer and he was the puppet. Since when he requested to be taken to Vrindavan, Nityananda took him to Advaitacharya's house instead. And on the way to Puri, Nityananda broke his sannyasa danda. Jagadananda gave the Lord too many bodily comforts, but the Lord didn't want these bodily comforts, and he couldn't accept them either because he was a sannyasi. However, Jagadananda would become angry if he didn't accept them, and he would not talk to the Lord for 3 entire days. Mukunda became unhappy when the Lord did austerities, making the Lord twice as unhappy. And Damodara educated the Lord in social etiquette, even though he was a brahmachari and the Lord was a sannyasi. Although the Lord's actions seem irrational, he was internally pleased with all the activities that he listed. We should remember that devotees place more importance on love towards the Lord than on social etiquette. However, as long as we are in this material world, we must still observe social customs to avoid criticism by the general public. Even though 4 devotees requested that they go with the Lord, they were turned down. However, no matter the circumstances, a devotee only thinks of how best to serve the Lord. This is why they requested that a Brahmana named Kala Krishnadas accompany the Lord on his tour to help him carry his water pot and garments. Sometimes, special privileges like the one given to Krishnadas are received unexpectedly, and we must learn to live up to them. Unfortunately, that's not quite what Kala Krishnadas did. During his tour of South India, Lord Chaitanya visited many places, such as Kurukshetra, Vidyanagar, Ahobilam, Tirupati, Kanchipuram, Sri Rangam, and Madurai, among others. In this way, he reached a place called Mallara Desha. As Srila Prabhupada describes in the 224th verse in the 9th chapter of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, Mallara Desha is located in the southern part of the modern-day state of Karnataka, as shown in the map on the right, which is a modern map of India. When Lord Chaitanya was visiting this place, a nomadic community was also living there, and this community was known as the Bhattaharis. The Bhattaharis only had one business: to allure, cheat, and steal innocent people to increase their population. They did this by employing women to pollute the intelligence of their victims and attract them into their camps. Unfortunately, Kala Krishnadas was one of these victims, and when he saw the Bhattahari women, he decided that he would abandon Lord Chaitanya early next morning to join the Bhattaharis. In this world, we are amidst innumerable distractions that deviate our minds from our goals. Slight inattentiveness could create a serious disaster, and attentiveness constitutes a consistent effort to bring the mind back when distracted. We must learn to be very diligent, because if we're not, the distractions in this world can drag us away, even from a most protected situation. What then to speak of others who may be unprotected? We should remember that success or failure in life depends on how effectively we use our minute independence by God. And we must be careful to use this independence to not fall victim to Maya. Although Kala Krishnadas abandoned Lord Chaitanya, the Lord's boundless compassion didn't allow him to disclaim his devotees, even if they acted against his will. This is why Lord Chaitanya followed Kala Krishnadas to the camp of the Bhattaharis, and when he reached there, he asked the people why they were keeping his assistant. At this point, they surrounded him and attacked him with weapons. But by some magic, their weapons ended up hitting their own tribe-mates' bodies, cutting them to pieces. Seeing the chaos erupting, all the other tribe-mates fled. At this point, Lord Chaitanya grabbed Kala Krishnadas by the hair and dragged him away, as this picture of a diorama shows very well. We should remember that truly kind masters serve even their own servants out of compassion. And since God is the ultimate master, he keeps a watch on the actions of his children to rescue them and reform them when they are distracted. In chapter 17, verse 14, 8 entire chapters later, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu remembers Kala Krishna Das's offense and requests a new assistant for his journey to Vrindavan. Nutana Sangahai Beka Snigda Yaramana Aiche Yabe Pai Tabe Lai Eka Jana. Translation: such a person must be a new man, and he must have a peaceful mind. If I can obtain such a man, I shall agree to take him with me. Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport of this verse that Lord Chaitanya asked specifically for a person with a peaceful mind because of the incident with Kala Krishna Das. Because Kala Krishna Das's intelligence was polluted, he abandoned Lord Chaitanya for some gypsy women, even though Lord Chaitanya was the literal Lord and also his spiritual master. Because Lord Chaitanya didn't want to go through the trouble of rescuing his assistant again, he requested a person with a peaceful mind who would not get distracted. Hearing that the Lord had rejected him in this way, Kala Krishnadas became very, very morose and began to cry. Seeing the plight of this Brahmana, the devotees, headed by Nityananda, Jagadananda, Mukunda, and Damodara, engaged him in service and instructed him to go to Navadvip and tell all the devotees that Lord Chaitanya had returned from his South India tour. In this way, they engaged the Brahmana in service of the devotees of the Lord, which is equal to, if not better, than directly serving the Lord. To summarize, the devotees imbibe the Lord's mood of compassion and give shelter to the fallen on the Lord's behalf. And the Lord allows his dear devotees to take the credit for being the representatives of his compassion. Such devotees are even more merciful than the Lord, because even though a person may be rejected by the Lord, the devotees do not reject him, but instead give him an assurance and encouragement and engage him in the Lord's service again. Thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. Does anyone have any questions?
I could listen to you all day. It was so dense with very well positioned information about the Leela, intertwined with lessons, that it was fascinating. And I loved how you pointed out the lessons along the way and then gave us a summary at the end. It reminded me of Maharaj's request for devastating prasad. This was a devastating speech. And you look great, by the way. Hare Krishna.
Nimai, that was really a nice presentation. Your words were flowing well without any interruptions or being very hurried, and you were able to pace yourself nicely. Just one point one observation, it's nothing to do with anything. One observation is that when I was reading Chaitanya Charitamrita, I came across this Bhatta Haris, and I was like little sad because Bhatta means God and Hari means the Lord. There is a Lord of, and it's such a nice name, and why would they do such a wild thing? But on closer observation, I read it is Bhatta Taris, not Bhatta Haris. So I thought, I'm so glad. Thank you, Krishna, for giving me that.
Thank you.
No, that is just as Bhatta Taris. That's it. Bhatta, and there is a T that we missed, so that T gets silent and it becomes Bhatta Hari, but it's Bhatta Taris. So thank you, Krishna. I didn't really like the name and what they did to you, so thank you for correcting me.
Thank you.
First of all, the packaging is very important, and I was impressed how nicely you are dressed. And the visuals, of course, are not the most important. We're hearing Shabda Brahman, we're hearing transcendental sound. I was impressed by how you chose that topic of the Bhatta Taris, and you presented it in such a way that you didn't, how do we say, it's a polluting incident. Not that the Leela as a whole is polluting, but there's some polluting details, and you glided through it like a swan in the water. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Being a mother of young children or of teenagers, I just want to commend you on your effort, on your elucidation, your presentation. And I would like to ask you what you took away personally from this story and the preparation of this presentation.
Well, I think it was in one of the slides. Let me try to find the specific point. It said I can't remember which slide it was in, but it said that we must be very careful not to fall victim. Yeah, actually right here. We must be careful not to fall victim to Maya. And while I was reading this book by Gauranga Darshan Das, Disapproved but Not Disowned, and also the purports in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Prabhupada and Gauranga Darshan Das, they mentioned specifically that we must put a conscious effort to not be distracted by Maya, because if you want to go back to Godhead, and then no one can stop you, not even Maya. But if you're not fully convinced and not determined to fight Maya, then not even Krishna or his devotees can save you from Maya. Like that really stuck with me, because since Krishna is the ultimate master and Maya directly reports to Krishna, you think that Krishna would be able to overcome Maya for us in certain circumstances. But nope. The soul, the living entity must have a desire to go back to Godhead. Otherwise, Krishna can't save him. Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay. I think we'll stop here. Thank you, Nimai. Thank
We
you.
don't want to stop here because it's so good, but we kind of have to because it's so late. But that's the hallmark of a really good presentation, is you don't want to stop. I loved your answer. Is the fact that you knew right where to go and that you had it and that impressed on you. I think it's the most essential point of Krishna consciousness also that you went right back to. And it also shows what you're doing, Vishesh Free Leela, is helping all of us, and especially the young people, to be really focused on how to speak about Krishna. Is that there's a real fruit in it too. As the devotees are going through and studying it, they come away with these realizations that can be expanded and spoken upon in many different forums. I think you could write a thesis paper on that realization you have. Is that the next step?
With your blessings,
Okay.
yes, Maharaj.
Thank you very much. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna.
We have a couple of brief announcements. One first from Bhakti Community.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, everyone. As you know, I just want to share a little bit more with Devamrita Swami Maharaj here, that we started Bhakti community under the guidance of Vaisheshika Prabhu. It was created during the time of pandemic when a lot of people were looking for association. We started it online, and then as pandemic got better, we started having more personal interaction with people. And one of the most important thing we do is the devastating prasadam. We make an attempt, but after your session, it really inspired me to really work more on the devastating prasadam. So thank you for that. So for everyone, you all know, whenever you give books, we have to make sure that we introduce people to Bhakti community. And does anybody know what's the website? www.bhakticommunity.com. There's a simple form where you sign people up. I have Krishna Sakha Prabhu. Where are you? Haribol. And I have Tim. We just want to make a quick presentation on how you should introduce Bhakti community. A lot of people still get confused. How do I introduce Bhakti community to newcomers? So they are going to make a very quick presentation for you all.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Prabhu, here we will do. So you come from there. So it all started when we meet people on the books, and yeah. Hey man, you look spiritual. I like your energy.
Oh, hey, thank you.
Yeah, we are giving out beautiful books here on meditation and yoga. This is our most popular one. It teaches best way to meditate and how to find your inner peace. It's by our teacher. He's practicing yoga meditation. He's yoga teacher from 50 years. And then this is our most important one. There are original writings on yoga meditation. It's more than 5,000 years old text. It says how to get free from stress and anxiety. Have you heard of stress?
Yeah.
It looks so peaceful.
Oh, thank you.
And all these books have beautiful pictures inside them. Like body keeps changing, but the consciousness remains the same. And how to revive the spiritual consciousness. I like your good vibe. You're very good. Like you look like a very high-minded person. Very nice, amazing.
I try.
And this is our most fun one. It's in story form, and it has beautiful art paintings in them. Spiritual teachers of the world, they say this gives you best time and gets you highest high. It really does. People usually take whole stack. We'd love for you to take them all, and usually help with some donation. We accept Venmo, Cash App, card, Apple Pay, whatever you like.
Sure, I have Apple Pay. How much should I donate?
No minimum. In store it costs more than $100. Printing is $40. You can do your best, whatever comes from your heart.
I can do 100.
Thank you so much. You're very generous. Yeah. And as I was showing, our teacher gives Zoom sessions Mondays at 5:30 and Thursdays also. So if you like, I can send you the Zoom details. If you're interested, you can give me your contract.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, thank you so much. And then this is what I text on the day of the session, on Mondays or Thursdays when we have it. So I say that, hey Tim, this is Krishna. It was awesome to meet you at Palo Alto. Thank you for accepting the meditation books. I trust you had an incredible weekend. We have a 1-hour Zoom session at 5:30 p.m. Pacific time today. It will be on spirituality and mindfulness. Session will be given by our teacher who is practicing Bhakti Yoga from more than 5 decades. He is the author of the 4 questions book I gave you. Below are the Zoom details. We'll be very happy to have you. Please join us. Best, Krishna.
I'd love to join. Thank you.
Yay, thank you so much.
Now we have Team ISV book distribution announcements by Malini Devi Dasi. Haribo!
Hare Krishna. We had a wonderful weekend last weekend. Some of us were in Los Angeles Rath Yatra, where we distributed 5,000 packets of prasadam in the form of books to all the people who came to the parade. There are a couple of highlights that we wanted to share from last time. One thing was some of the devotees were going on a bus to Los Angeles. It was a bus, about 50 devotees, and we stopped at a rest area. We wanted to take prasad. And we just got down and we were looking for people. We had books, of course, looking for people who can take. And it was very sparse. There was nothing going on in that rest area. But there was a row of all these electric cars where people were just sitting and doing nothing because they have to wait for the car to be charged. So one of the car that was closed, all closed, red color car, windows all closed. And then I knocked the door, and they slowly raised down the windows, and there was a Very, very nice African American couple. And they had, in the middle, between those two, had a big, some stuff they were eating. And they were just listening to a radio or something because they had to kill 30 minutes so that they charged their car. And when I asked them, I said that I'm coming from a yoga center and I'm showing these books on yoga meditation. Initially, when I knocked the door, like they were not very interested. They were just looking at me like, who is she? But when I said yoga meditation, and suddenly the husband said, meditation? I do meditation. And I asked what kind of meditation you do. Oh, I listen to something and I follow along. And when I showed them the Bhagavad Gita, I said, Tupac Shakur read this one. And I said, Tupac read it? Yes, he did. And then he took the stack of Bhagavad Gita and Science of Self-Realization. And in the end, I asked for a donation. And he said, I got no money, he said. And I was looking at what they were eating. And then, so I got no money. And then his wife said, yes, you have. Yes, you have. And she was just nudging him. I said, no, I don't. And then his wife said, oh, all right. And then she took out a $10 bill and she gave a donation. And the best part was when we were leaving, that husband said, thank you for seeking out to us, reaching out to us. We were just minding our own business. Usually nobody appreciates that much, but it was nice to hear that they said, thank you for reaching out to us. We were just minding our own business. So it was so nice. It was so encouraging to see that people are there who are looking for these books. Apparently they may not seem, but internally they are looking for that. That was one while we were going, very nice experience. And we were in Los Angeles, like Maharaj was mentioning, the kind of experiences they were having going to Russia and everything. I mean, we don't have that much of a determination, but we did a little part, very small part. We asked Bhrigupati Prabhu, His Grace Bhrigupati Prabhu, where could we go out for book distribution? He said, you can go to Malibu Hindu temple, but they don't like us there. So we thought, okay, let us give it a try. And we went there, and it is a very high-scale community, Malibu. Like, I think a lot of rich people live there. And they have cameras around the property, and inside the pujaris monitor who is in the parking lot. So big screens are there. And we were out there distributing, trying to find if we can see someone who can read Srimad Bhagavatam. And very nice people, somehow we distributed, I think we did 11 sets at that temple. And one of the last persons that we met, she said, we showed the Bhagavatam and we said, 18 books? Oh, this is too many books. And then I said, don't worry about reading them in a month or 2 months. Don't have that aggressive goals. Just read it in a period of a year or maybe throughout your lifetime. And then she said that, maybe one lifetime is not enough. I have to read for many, many, many lifetimes. And I thought she was kidding, but actually there was tears in her eyes. She was serious about it. She understood there is a lot of value in these books. Not only she took, one of her friends was also with her. So her friend also took. We ran out of sets because we didn't take many. But she asked us to ship, and we just shipped it yesterday to her as well. So it was so nice to see a lot of people appreciating Bhagavatam. One last one, the week before we went to an Indian store here, and it was really slow, very, very slow. People were not coming. So I told Achyuta Kumar Prabhu that, let me find another place. Let me just walk out and see if there is another place where we can go and distribute books. And when I was just walking out, one very nice mother and son, they came, and he's from Odisha. His name was Vishnu Prasad. And he came, and then I started talking, and then he was so receptive. And I said that we have one last Bhagavatam set in Odia. And they said, I will take it. And then he took the Bhagavatam, and while he was going and putting the set in the car, he came back, and he said that just before COVID, 1 year before COVID, his father and mother, they read Mahabharata, they read Bhagavad Gita, they read many scriptures, but never Srimad Bhagavatam. And 1 year before COVID, his father got a dream, and obviously from Odisha means only Jagannath comes in their dream. And he mentioned, his mother was also mentioning that Jagannath came into the dream and told his father that you have not read Srimad Bhagavatam, you should read Bhagavatam. And the very next day, the father went wherever he could find. He bought this big Odia Srimad Bhagavatam, whatever in the local language. He got it, and he finished reading the entire Bhagavatam in 1 year. And the moment after he finished reading Srimad Bhagavatam, he passed away during COVID. And his mother carries that, whatever Bhagavatam the father was reading, everywhere she goes. And I showed that we have a full Bhagavatam with full translations and everything. She was crying. And she was saying that, I think maybe that's why we came here to this Indian store today, because we had to get the full set with purports and everything. And they were very, very appreciative. So there are people, a lot of people who already have Bhagavatam but may not have the full set, or they have very sincere desire to read. So we just have to reach out to them. So many opportunities are available today. We have places in Cupertino that we are going. There is one spot in Mountain House. There's one in Dublin, Pleasanton area, one in Fremont. And our Western Sankirtan team, as you saw Krishna Saka Prabhu demonstrating, we have many spots going there as well. If you wanted to come to one of the spots, please reach out to one of us and we'll be happy to take you along. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
The last and, for me, most heartfelt announcement today is to welcome back Madhukanta Prabhu and Leela Sarup, Devi Dasi. I remember the very moment in our temple that I saw some commotion early in the morning, and you were going to see your mother. And I said, when are you coming back? And he said, as soon as possible. And apparently this was it, because this is the first time you've been back to ISV in how many years now? 18 years. So when we see somebody for the last time, we don't know it's the last time for 18 years, but I can just say that we've been in separation from all of you, and now you brought back Abai as a young giant, and you've got Rukmini and Ananda, who came back also, shining and effulgent. And we're so grateful to see all of you back here. It's seeing you on the altar again. Madhukanta Prabhu, for those of you who weren't here 18 years ago, was our head pujari. He's one of the founding members of ISV. Definitely, he was one of the party that came up from Los Angeles and actually got established our first center on Union Street, not Union Street, on New Jersey Avenue in a house, and took care of the deities. This is our fearless and most steady pujari ever. So thank you very much for coming back to us. Please make this a regular event coming, and great to see you, see all the kids. Thank you, and let's welcome back Madhukanta Prabhu, Leela Sarup, and all the kids. And now, heeding Maharaj's advice, I'd just like to sing our favorite song for all of ISKCON. Shari, what? One more announcement.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Today's sponsors are Shubhankar Krishna Prabhu and Aparupa Mataji. Thank you so much, and they are sponsoring on the occasion of Shubhabrita's birthday. And Mataji, would you like to come up and say any words?
Hare Krishna, very happy to be here, and please bless us, bless Shubhabrata, so we can come frequently and get your association. Hare Krishna.
And we also have the cooks for today.
Hare Krishna, today's prasadam was cooked by Hansapriya Mataji, who was helped by Sachinda Krishna Prabhu, Ananda Vrindavan Mataji, Sanjeev Prabhu, Brajarasa Bhavana Prabhu, and Yash Prabhu.
Jodendriya tahika jibe pele vishaya shagare Dharma jedivaiti loba musudhurmati take jeta katita samsare Krishna Bharadoyamoy Gori Bhare Saprasadana Dilobhai Shayanamrita Pao Radha Krishna Gunagao Premedako Shri Chaitanya Nita Premedako Shri Chaitanya Nita Ma Prasade Govinde Nama Brahmani Vaishnave Sopa Punya Patam Rajan Vishta Sonagajai Prasade Sarvadhikanam Anirasya Upajayate Prasana Cheta Suyashu Bhudipaya Vajistate Tvayopa Bhuttas Lakanda Vasavankara Charchitaha Uchishta Bojino Dasas Tavamayam Jaimahi Champarushi Kambati Nityam Badura Deshataha Prakti Matrena Bhoktavyam Natsakala Vicharana Nadeshaniya Mastatra Nakalaniya Mastatra Praptamanam Drutam Shishta Bhoktaran Hara Abrave Bhagavat Shri Mahaprasadiki Gopremanande Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Please come take prasadam. Hare Krishna. Prasadam is served in the picnic area. Go out this door, take a sharp right, and you'll be there. Hare Krishna.